Sean Dustin spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. Upon release in 2006, he had nothing but the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and legal paperwork. In 2010, he kicked a long-time methamphetamine habit and started the long climb back up the ladder of life. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. If you want transparency and authenticity, you're in the right place. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and this is Sean Dustin.
What's up, everybody? This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and I am your host, Sean Dustin. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Had a previous one just that wrapped up 10 minutes ago, and now we're moving right into the 5 o'clock hour of the broadcast, and we have a very special guest for you this evening, Mr. John Boseak. And this cat, I've heard his story before. Crazy, man. You just got to hear it. I can't even explain it. He's just got to tell it. But if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and thumbs this video up. If you are on Facebook, share this out right now. Hit that thing, share. The algorithm is not very kind to people who don't want to pay for advertising on their platform. So the more you share this, the more reach it will get. If you're listening on the podcast platforms, which this will be airing in about a couple of weeks, do me a favor and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Very important for me to get into the new and noteworthy category and to chart as well. We're going to get right into this here. John is joining us from the tattoo studio where he works or owns. I'm not sure which one it is. We're going to pull him in here. What's up, brother? How are you?
What's going on, brother? All right.
So is this your studio or do you work there? Do you own it or do you work there?
No. I'm not the owner. I just work here. Yeah, I'm at Royalty Tattoo Studio in Phoenix, Arizona.
Awesome. Right on. Thank you for giving me your time and coming to share your story. I did listen to you on the Clubhouse chat with Vitali. Is that who it is?
Yeah, Vitali.
Yeah. That was a good one, man. That was about a 3.5 hour deal you did there.
It was, man. That's the longest one I've done to date, actually. And I actually somebody was in the room. They recorded and transcribed the entire thing. And then I edited some and I put it up on my YouTube channel. So yeah, you can catch the whole entire thing on my YouTube channel from beginning to end.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw that. I was looking at your YouTube channel today and I was like, oh, it's on there. That's cool. Yeah. So why don't we just get right into it, man? The reason why we're here is to talk about your story and what happened to you and kind of how you went from being homeless at 14 to being probably the number one credit card manufacturer or the number one manufacturer of fraudulent credit cards internationally or just in the United States?
It was just, I don't think it was international because those guys in Europe were doing some pretty big numbers, way before me. Definitely was, I believe the biggest in the United States at that point in time that I knew of and that the authorities knew of and that the community knew of. There may have been other guys that, were completely super underground and were pumping out and doing bigger numbers than me, but I don't see it.
Yeah, you were doing way bigger things than I was doing. I mean, I was pressing them out and doing the tracking and encoding and embossing, tipping, and all that stuff, but nowhere near on the level that you were messing with. So,
gotcha. Were you guys just doing piecework and going out and using them and?
Yeah, so we were buying dumps with Bitcoin from Russia, and then using those dumps to encode the back of them. Like we were making the cards, printing them out, pressing them, and doing all of that stuff. But a lot of the things that we were doing was the online ordering online, and then picking up the merchandise in store.
The virtual carding. Yeah, that's where I kind of started and kind of got into the game at was the virtual side. It was before the physical shit even really came along. That was my first like foray into the whole karting world.
So let's get a little bit into your background. You said you were homeless at 14. So how did that happen? And like what transpired into making that a reality for you?
Right. You ready, brother? I have been a little shithead pretty much my whole life. And starting at the age of about 13, I just started, getting incarcerated for various things. Shoplifting, stealing cars. I was, got busted with a pistol when I was like 13 or 14 years old at school and got expelled. So, my career as being a mischievous cretin had started at a very young age. So by the time I hit 14, I had already been incarcerated twice for over a year. Um, and my mom, being a single mother raising two kids, she didn't want to deal with it. So she told me that pretty much that I could just kick rocks. Because at that point I was a ward of the state. My mom didn't even have custody of me. My mom had turned over custody of me to the state. So that they could do whatever they needed with me and straighten me out, which didn't work. So I'd been in Boysville, and I had been in different group homes, and I had been in boot camps and various other juvenile facilities. So when I hit 14 and I got released from one of these programs, my mom was like, pretty much like, dude, you got to find somewhere to go. You know what I mean? Like, she just wasn't having it, And so yeah, I got the green light from my parentals to pretty much just go and do whatever I wanted from the age of 14, and that's how I ended up on the street. Now, when I say I was homeless at the age of 14, I wasn't sleeping behind dumpsters, and you know what I mean. Like I wasn't like the homeless people you see by the side of the highway, begging for change. Now, it's true I didn't have a residence, but at 14, your friends' parents aren't going to let you stay outside. Your friends' parents, you know what I mean? Like, there's always going to be somebody's couch or somebody's home to go to kind of hang out at, and that's where I kind of found myself at that age.
Yeah, no. Up to this point, our stories are kind of paralleling each other. Same thing, ward of the state, parent, incorrigible. My mom couldn't handle me.
Exactly. Yeah.
And around 16, I ended up doing meth and ended up in a meth addiction. So how do you go from couch surfing from friends' homes to, I know that I remember your story. You talked about some of the little smaller things that you would do, like fraud wise, and, different things that you would do. So kind of talk about that. Like, how did you sort of slip into doing fraudulent things?
What's up? You want to talk to me? Oh, I can't right now, brother. You have to schedule it. All right. And then, so yeah, being on the street, you got to survive. You know what I mean? You got to eat. You need money, obviously, and whatever you're doing, you gotta fuel the party. You got to keep the party going. So I picked up on scams, man. I picked up on simple street scams in the beginning, and then I kind of moved from there up to the more serious stuff. But I started just I hacked the computers at the library so that I could run my own kind of version of Photoshop. And what I was doing is I would print UPC. I figured out the UPC codes for restaurants. I would print UPC codes and I would make my own coupons so that I could go to restaurants and I could eat and I could get like free fast food and shit. And I think that was like one of the earliest things kind of like was like, oh wow, there's something to this, And I've always been into computers. I've always been a computer nerd. I've been building computers, since the mid to early 90s. So fraud has always just been like a kind of my go-to. It's always just been like a fit for me.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And did it kind of, for me, it was, I spent a lot of time trying to navigate getting out of doing the things that I should do. So I'd always find a hack, or I would always find a vulnerability in something and how I could get out of doing things, right?
Same
Like
here, man.
get out of having to work.
Yep.
Because I that's really what it was. I wanted to be lazy and do whatever I wanted to. So however I could figure out how to facilitate, that main goal is what I did. And the UPC thing, I think that was pretty funny, because I kind of did the same sort of thing when I was in Vegas. I had a group of people that were working for me doing smash and grabs, and they would bring me, towers and all these things. And so I needed new hard drives. So I figured out how to kind of shrink wrap things and peel off labels and put them back on and be able to buy brand new hard drives and put the old ones in its place and then return them at Walmart. Right.
Yeah.
So it was always something that I'd figured out. And then of course, like, yourself, it turned into bigger things, and, I started learning how to do more, but methamphetamine really is what kind of facilitated that, because when I wasn't tweaking, I was not interested in doing any of it.
Right.
And what I find fascinating for you is that drugs don't even play a part.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. For me, it wasn't drugs, man. Like I never got into drugs. It was just not wanting to work, man. Like I watched my mom work herself to death. I watched, various members of my family work themselves to death. And, they're all successful. They all have money. They all own their own homes, but they're all fucking miserable. You know what I mean? Like every single one of them, they're all miserable. Their bodies are all fucked up. They got chronic pain. And I'm just not going to live my life like that, and that's why I chose not to really pursue, to get into the job market, to really take it seriously.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and also too, the options for somebody who doesn't have a whole lot of skills or work experience. I mean, you're like, I remember getting a job as a carpenter's apprentice, making $9 an hour, being basically a humping wood up and down to the trash can. And I was like, dude, I'm not going to work this hard. That's crazy.
Dude. Just general labor, man. That's all you can really do, brother. And I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to live that life. I worked. Don't get me wrong. I worked plenty of regular jobs, growing up my whole life. I did windows and doors for many years in Miami. I did commercial glazing, commercial storefront glass. I cut mirror. I did all kinds of shit, man. You know what I mean? So, and I was just like, dude, I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. I'm not. So, I'm either going to be a business owner and I'm going to open a small business, or I'm going to commit fraud or do something illegal. But I'm not working a regular job. That's for fucking sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So take me down the road after you figured out how to do the UPC codes, and like how does it turn into doing the online fraud and virtual fraud?
Right. Well, none of that stuff actually came till much later on. I had went to college. I graduated high school. I went to college before any of the carding actually came into existence. I had went to college. I got my associate's degree, and I went to the Art Institute at Fort Lauderdale, and I got my associate's in graphic design and media art. And after I graduated, I went to go work for a company in Miami, a print company, and I was a lead graphic design artist. I was making really good money. I worked there for about a good year and a half, almost 2 years. I show up to work one morning, and the feds are there, and the owner's wife is there, and they wouldn't let anybody in the building. They were taking everything out. They were taking out all the filing cabinets and all the paperwork, and they questioned all the employees. And now I didn't know anything shady was going on. I was completely green at this point in time. I thought it was just a regular business. I show up for work every day. I do my job, and I went home. And I didn't know anything was out of the ordinary. But apparently they were doing something shady. It was either money laundering or had something to do with drugs from South America. Who knows? But the owner's wife cut me a check for the remainder of my wage for that year. It was a decent check, and she told me to go cash it immediately. And I did. and then I immediately just tried to look for another job, to try and figure out, because at this point I had been living pretty good. I had the graphic design job, and they were paying me really good money. I had a condo on Brickell, in Miami, which, if you don't know what the Brickell area of Miami is, it's young executives live there, young professionals. It's, expensive condos, really, really, not really expensive real estate, but you're doing all right if you're living in Brickell, which I was. And, I was driving a new Mercedes S550, and I didn't want to give any of that up. You know what I mean? Like, I was used to living good, and now when they closed down, I don't have any income coming in. Now all I have is debt, and my bills at this time were like around $4,500 a month. Just keep the lights on, between the car and the condo and everything else I had going on, like $4,500 a month just to keep the lights on. And now I don't have any income coming in, and I have a little bit of savings, not much, but I got a little bit, and so now I got to figure something out. And that's when I know I had a buddy of mine that I knew from Miami, that I knew he was into scams. I knew that he was always doing shit, and so I hit him up, and he kind of put me up on the carding, and that's how I kind of got into the virtual carding. And you got to remember, this was 20 years ago. This was early 2000s. So there was no onion router. There was no dark web. There wasn't any of that shit. You know what I mean? It was just a carding forum. That's all that existed. So in my opinion, the information was a little bit easier to access if you knew where to look.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you're talking about like forums, right? Like chat rooms, basically, or just
yep.
That
just like message boards. It's pretty much what it was. It's like 4chan or like 8chan was, back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah, that kind of deal.
And then you start getting information through there, making connections with where to pick up dumps at and stuff like that.
Yep, exactly. But like I said, I wasn't even in the dump game at this time. I'm just doing virtual.
Okay, so explain what virtual is, because I wasn't doing virtual. What I was doing was a little bit different.
Right.
Than virtual.
You came a little later. I think that when you were doing that didn't start till around like 2009, 2010 or something like that, I believe, when they started doing the in-store pickup, and you could order with the card online. And yeah, that was wide open for a little while, man, before people started really hitting it really hard. But virtual carding is, so anytime you go to a website, back in the day, now it's a lot different. The payment processing systems are a lot different, and just the way they store data now is a lot different because of all the data breaches and everything. But 20 years ago, that just didn't exist. And so, say you had a store, like an online store, 9 times out of 10, that your store, like the whole thing was just like on a server in your garage somewhere. You know what I mean? Like your whole website was hosted on a server you had like in like a back fucking room or something like that. And the security on them it was a joke. So what guys do is they hack into these servers, and they would, oh yeah, I skipped a part of the process. I'm sorry. So anytime you go to a website or anything, you order anything and you type in, this is 20 years ago. Now there's payment processing systems, PayPal and everything. That third party, they all handle it, but it didn't used to be handled third party. It used to all be done manually. Like you would go and order something off somebody's website. You type in all your credit card information. Now all that information would be saved to a server at somebody's fucking house somewhere. And the way they process their orders is they would have to manually, because I worked for one of these companies back in the day, you would have to manually in the morning go through all the emails, pull up all the orders, and then process all the credit cards by hand. And then type in, all the orders and do it all like that. So nothing was really automated, nothing like that. So this information was extremely easy to access for hackers, and that's what they did. They hacked it and they just resold it on these websites. Now, when you get a hold of this information, you can use this information, just mask your IP address using like a VPN and a SOX proxy. You can go online and go to a website and use this credit card information to virtually purchase something online and then have it shipped to a drop address or whatever. And that's pretty much, virtual carding in a nutshell.
And so now you've got hard products that you need to make the cash to get them. So I mean, there's a little bit more. There's a little work involved in it.
Yeah, you gotta fence all the stolen shit, So that's easy. That's just Craigslist and eBay. I mean, that's a joke. You list it. If it's brand new in the box, you just knock like 200 off retail. It's gone the same day it's posted.
Yeah, we found that out when we were doing
Yeah.
the MacBook Pros. I mean, they never go on sale, and we were killing it with those, $1,800 a piece to $2,200 depending on which one it was, and yeah, they were gone within minutes of posting them up there.
Yeah.
So it goes from, it's like, how are you doing? Are you doing good doing that, or are you just kind of getting by, or are you spinning your wheels?
I was doing all right. I mean, just like with anything, there's going to be a lot of you're not going to have success every single order you put in. You know what I'm saying? Like it's trial and error, and a lot of times your shit just doesn't go through, and there's a lot of legwork involved, man. You know what I mean? Like you got to find addresses to get shit shipped to, and then you got to take the chance that the shit you're going to pick up isn't being watched, and you start getting paranoid and all that other shit. So yeah, no, it's a lot of legwork, man. And you make all right money, I guess. I mean, I was making more money doing that than I was at a regular job, hands down. So I wasn't complaining, but like there's just a lot of legwork, man. And you can only have shit mailed to one address so many times.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
and
saying?
Does that address get flagged at some point?
I mean, I'm sure it does with that company. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whoever you're ordering from, and then, like I said, man, it's just a lot of legwork, and it's just not scalable. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to make millions doing this shit. I'm not trying to just fucking. If I'm only making the same amount of money as I was making at a 9 to 5, in my eyes, it's not even worth it. I would just go get a regular fucking job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if I'm not making the money I want to see, then it's not even worth it to me. And I figured out real fast that it's cool. You get free shit, and there's a kind of a certain little rush to it. But once all that wears off, dude, you know what I mean? Like you got to start figuring out, okay, how can I make more money? Like I need to make more money, and this is just not doing it.
And so it sounds like you've kind of always had a business mind anyways, right?
Oh yeah. I just learned from a young age. I don't know where I picked it up or who taught me or what happened. I look at everything through financial lenses,
All right. So where do we go from there? So you're doing the virtual thing. You're kind of realizing that, it's working, but there's a lot of legwork, and, possibly you might as well just be working a regular job if it's taking way too long to get to where you want to go, and it's not scalable. So where do you go from there?
Yeah. That's when I started looking at other options. When I started looking into the in-store carding, and I started looking into physical carding. Started doing all my research there, and kind of led me down that path, and then I started doing the in-store carding. So I was just, I think the first piece of equipment I bought was the MSR 505 or the 506. I don't remember which one it was. And I just started buying dumps. I wasn't even buying plastic at this time. I was just buying dumps and kind of using them,
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing that, and that was cool for a while. And I'm getting PlayStations, I'm getting big screens. Because I was buying the novelty ID too, so that I could match the plastic to the ID, and I could go in, and buy the bigger ticket items and all that shit. So, and I did that for a while, and that was cool, and I made a lot of money doing that. I was probably making $2 or $3 grand a week, But I also figured out once again that operation is just not scalable. And mind you, listen, I'm doing everything by myself. You know what I mean? Like I don't have people working for me. I don't have people out there running around with me, doing all this shit. So I'm solo dolo doing all this by myself.
Which is good. Which is probably the best way to be doing any of that kind of stuff, because you don't have anybody that, if you get in trouble with the feds, you're more than likely going to be looking at a conspiracy charge, and they're going to be incentivized to turn on you.
Yeah, when I went to court, when they finally caught me, that was the only thing that really saved my life, is I had no co-defendants. I took it all by myself, and I didn't have anybody to tell on, and there was nobody to tell on me, pretty much kind of deal,
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I was working with a group, but I'm the one that got busted, and it because I was doing, I had no business doing anything that I was doing. I hadn't slept in 3 days, and for whatever reason, that rush that you need, you feel that need. I got to go get some items. I got to go
Yeah.
cart. I got to go get it, man. And
Dude, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine being on meth doing that shit, dude. Like, there's just no. I mean, I've never done it. I've never used meth, but I'm like, I can only imagine. Like, it's probably not the best like frame of mind to be in when you're out there trying to commit thousands of dollars in fucking fraud. You know?
No, especially when you look like you hadn't slept in 3 days, and your mind is telling you that you look great, and when you go to check out or pay for it or pick something up, I mean they
Look
got
behind are crazy. Yeah.
yeah,
Like they
and
look at
so
you and they automatically are like, dude, something's not right with this situation.
yeah, and so that's what ended up happening, and like I said, I got busted, but I was already on supervised release anyways, right? I was doing all of this
Oh,
while I was on supervised release, and
got it.
from the feds. And
Yeah.
what ended up happening is that they didn't prosecute me, even though they caught me with about 7 different cards with IDs to match, because we were making the IDs to go with them
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And so they put me in jail, but since I was on supervised release, they dropped the charges because they knew that they weren't going to get any time out of me. The feds are gonna supersede anything.
Yeah. I mean, the feds get theirs first, and then you know what I mean. And then the state can get theirs. So, I mean, if they really wanted to, they could have prosecuted you, and then you could have went and did your fed time, and then went and did your state time after the fed time. You
Yeah,
know,
they didn't pursue it, and maybe it's because they knew
you're
that
lucky.
my family had been in law enforcement in that area, so
So you
that
got a little
might have
break.
been
Yeah,
something to do with it. I don't know. It was
yeah,
kind of weird to me,
I got you.
and
A lot
so
of weird shit
yeah,
happened in my case too, man. Like a lot of weird shit. I was looking at 15 years in the beginning, and I only did like 24 months. So I hear you.
so you go from the in-store physical thing, and that is stressful when you're having to do all
Super
that,
stressful. Yeah,
because you gotta
especially when you depend on it to pay your bills.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
different when you're doing it for fun. You know what I mean? But when you wake up and like your bills, your rent's due in 3 days, and you have to go out and card laptops. Like I know I have to get 5 laptops this week, or my rent's not getting paid. That's when it becomes fucking stressful. And then it seems like every store you go into, the card gets declined. You know what I mean? Like the last week, everything, all my dumps were good, and now all of a sudden I got a shit batch of dumps, and now you know what I mean? Like I need this money, and it's just like so we start taking risks, and like the whole thing's just fucking not good, dude.
yeah, no, for sure. So did you ever get into a situation like, because I knew if somebody took my information, took my card, and they left my site, then that was pretty much
Oh, you walk out.
yeah, it's like, I'm gone. There's no reason you should
You
leave my
just, yeah, you
site.
don't run. You just slowly, calmly walk out the front door. Yeah.
So did that
Yep.
happen to you often?
Oh, plenty of times, man. Plenty of times. And I would listen. I would get irate with the people. I would start fucking yelling at them, like, give me my card back now. And they'd be like, or I'd play it cool because sometimes like, oh, we got to call. It says we have to call because the one of the thing you hold call if the card, you know what I mean, like if the card had been reported stolen or whatever. And they're like, oh, it says I got to call. And what I immediately do is just reach my hand out, and I'm like, you know what, that happened, and all day I'll call my bank and then I'll come back in. And usually they give you your card back. But if it's a store where there's been a lot of fraud at in the past, then they don't fuck around. They just take your shit and walk in the back with it. And that's when you just fucking walk out the door like fuck them, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I've had to do that. I came
Oh,
close to getting caught a couple of times with that one.
I've been there plenty of times, man. I've been chased out of Walmart, dude. Me and my little brother got chased out of Walmart one time. We were trying to cart a laptop, and he got caught. They snatched him, and I got away. And dude, that was like the end of it, dude. For me, for him anyway, that was the end of it. But for me, that was just the beginning. You know what I mean? I didn't
Yeah.
give a shit. I was wild, bro. I didn't give a shit about getting chased out of stores and shit, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of it for me was trial and error. It was
That's what it was, dude.
you fail and you figure out, okay, well that doesn't work, so let me switch to something else, or here's something that happens, and all right, let me put that in the bank, in the bank of thoughts and memories. So now I know
Yep.
better if I see that again. Now I know what
Yep.
to do. Danny has sent a comment. He said, I owned an electronics store and someone ordered some speakers for $500 and I tracked the delivery to a local address and the disabled lady had befriended the person online who was using her as a drop point. The police say they found a house lot of stuff. I got my speakers back. Well, you're lucky, Danny, because a lot of people don't get their stuff back.
Yeah, that's true, man. Yeah, I know. I used to. I was a scoundrel, man. When I used to do it, I would go online and I would look for. I found a list. I was looking. I found a. What was it? It was a. Gosh darn! It was a bank, and they had this was back like during the 2008 crisis when like everybody was losing their homes, and I found the list of foreclosed homes like in my area in Miami, and I drove to all of them and I marked them on the map which ones were vacant, and that's where I would just so I had a whole list of all these big giant homes out in Miami, Miami Beach, North Miami Beach, and all that shit. And that's where I would use a lot of my drop addresses for. Something else I used to do. Like I said, I was a scoundrel. I used to get like cards that were local, say virtuals, and I was like carding something that needed to, because a lot of places only will own now because of all the fraud. A lot of places will only ship to the billing address of the credit card, period. And so if they were local, like if I got a bunch of local ones, dude, I would go to their house. Like whoever's card I was using, I would go sit out front and I'd wait for the UPS guy to pull up or the FedEx guy, and then I would either go and be pulling trash cans out to the curb in front of that house, or I'd be like dragging some boxes up or something like that. And as the UPS guy or FedEx guy is getting out of his truck, I would immediately just say the name that I knew was on the package, like, "Oh, Kent Smith," and he'd look at me like, "Oh yeah," and I'd be like, "Bam," and I would just sign for it every time it worked.
Yeah. That's
But like I said, I was a scoundrel, man. I was a fucking scoundrel.
No, I know. I was too, man. It didn't matter, And I think a lot of it is that, it makes it so easy because you don't know who it is. And a lot of the times, like when I was doing it, the banks would catch it way before the customer would even know. Like the banks would put a stop to it before the customer knew. And I always rationalized it in my head that, I'm not really ripping off. I'm not ripping off a person. I'm ripping off the banks, and the banks rip everybody off. So.
That's how I felt. Fuck the banks. I didn't feel like I was fucking anybody out of their money because the people are all gonna get their money back at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Like it's all insured. The bank's gonna give it up, and that's why the banks charge all these high interest rates. Because all this shit's baked in. All these, it's all calculated in, man.
And they get to claim it as a loss at the end of the year, so they're making money on the fees and all that, and then they're making
it's a joke. It's a big game. Yeah, for sure.
So what else I want to ask you? So you're doing that. So how do you end up in that position where you go from being an in-person guy to being a supplier and distributor of plastic?
Once I figured out that operation really wasn't scalable, I had to figure out obviously a new way to make money to pay my bills. And I had been paying like I think between $15 to $20 a card when I like finally started ordering like plastics and shit from people. And I was like, man, so and that's just the way my brain worked. I'm like, well, this person is completely anonymous. You know what I mean? All they have to do is print the plastic and put it in the mail, and that's it. So essentially, almost all the risk is being eliminated. And that's what I was looking for. I was looking for a way to make the most amount of money with the least amount of risk, obviously. And so I figured out, okay, what printers do I need? What equipment do I need? How, and that sent me down a whole road of about 3 or 4 months of just research, trying to figure out what printers and what equipment. And, it was just like a snowball after that, pretty much,
So for anybody out there that wants to know, like, how this is even possible, you have to have a card printer. You have to have, the graphics to put on the card, because we had a bunch of them, and I'm sure there's places out there where you can buy them. I wasn't a part of getting most of that stuff. We had a operation where we had two separate locations, two offices, one where we did all the research and got all the information, and then we kept the place where we pressed all the cards out and all the equipment to do the encoding and everything else. So if one got popped, we didn't lose everything. If one location went down, the other, we still had some stuff.
Yeah, you guys
And
are smart. I had everything in one fucking place. I have everything in fucking one office, man. Or in my condo, actually.
yeah. And so it, and what it takes to do that, I mean, you got to be able to buy the cards, you got to be able to buy the card printers, which those are difficult to get because they don't just give them to just anybody. You can't be a Joe off the street and say, hey, I want a card printer or an embosser or.
No, I had to actually open like a legitimate LLC. I had to get like I built a website. I registered like a business and all that shit. That's how I ended up ordering all my equipment.
And then there's the tipper if you want to get super professional with it, which is what puts the foil.
I had one.
Yeah, the silver foil on the indented things. You got the indenter, which is that puts the indentations on the back of it where the CCV is.
Yep.
If you want to get super legit, and then you got to have the what are those things they call the holograms.
Oh, I had heat press. I had heat press holograms, so I wasn't using like bullshit stickers. You know what I mean? Like I had legitimate fucking hot foil. I had the hot foil machine and everything for the hot stamping. I was running just a Fargo printer that the only thing it had was the only thing it did was it put the UV. I had the UV security feature. So there's two UV security features on a credit card. There's one on the front. On Visa, it's a V right down the bottom where the Visa is.
Mm-hmm.
On a MasterCard, I believe it's a giant M and a giant C on the front, and then on the rear, on the SIG strip, it says Visa, or MasterCard in like micro print. But it only shows up under UV. And I had only a single printer just to do that with.
Oh yeah,
and then I was running the Fargo HDP 5000 printers. Dude, those things cost me like fucking $4,000 a piece.
Yeah, they're expensive. I remember my buddy had the UV one too. Like he was, because we were doing the UV on the California IDs.
Yep, because it was a bear.
Yep. And so we had.
I made all the IDs too. I still remember.
Yeah, it was. We the funny thing is that I remember listening to your story on that one, and we're getting a little bit ahead of this, but when you were in California, you were living in Tracy, right? Yep. I'm in Oakley and Brentwood.
Oh, that's right. That's right over the Altamont.
Yeah. Well, it's not. No, it's actually Highway 4. So Tracy Highway 4 runs right into Byron Highway.
Yeah.
Byron Highway runs right into Byron, then Brentwood, then Oakley, then Antioch. And so, yeah, that's actually where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
So I thought it was kind of funny, man. Dude, our stories really parallel each other in a lot of places.
Pretty weird.
Yeah. So yeah, it's about 42 right now. We got about 15 more minutes. So let's
we're good, dude.
Let's roll into what that was like and sort of the back end of that. So you're starting to distribute now. You've kind of figured out, who's doing what. And I remember you talked about customer service being a really strong point, and you noticed that from buying from these other distributors, that's where they were lacking, was customer service, right?
Yes.
And so tell me how you capitalized on that to kind of elevate and pole vault yourself into a lead role in this game.
Sure. Can you run next door and grab me a blue Gatorade? And then if you want something too, and him as well. So I started printing, and I figured out that the cards I was ordering weren't that good. Once I started making them myself, and I was like, and I seen the quality of the cards that I was making, and then I was ordering. So what I did was I methodically went through and I ordered I ordered from every vendor that was selling. Like every vendor that was selling cards, I ordered from them. And when I ordered from them, I had a checklist. And on that checklist was like, okay, when I first contacted them, how long did it take them to get back to me? How long after I paid them did I get my cards? And then I had, once I got the physical card, I had a checklist. I went down to the card. I could tell what printer he was using. I could tell what kind of holograms they were using. I could tell the quality of the printers. I could tell everything. So what I set out to do was make, first of all, a better product. Well, no, actually, first of all, I wanted to have better customer service than anybody else that was vending. Period. And then also, I needed to have obviously a better product. And once I figured those two things out, it was game over. Everybody, I don't know what happened to everybody else, but they either just stopped making cards or they went out of business because I put everybody out of business. Everybody was just ordering me from there on out. It took me like 6-8 months, like a year to really get to that status, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I remember one of the things you said that was really kind of key, and is that you had figured out that it was really one group that was doing all of them, right?
It came down to, I thought there were like 15 different vendors, and when I ordered from all these vendors and I got their cards, I figured out that it was just 2 dudes who thought they were fucking tricking everybody by making 15 different accounts and playing like there was all these vendors. So they had like they had the marketplace cornered. And hats off to them. It worked until I came along and figured everything out, and put them out of business.
Yeah. So you're doing all this, you're making all this money at the peak of your success in this line of work. What numbers were you pulling?
At the very pinnacle of what I deemed to be my success, I was doing about 100 orders a month. And it was a minimum order with me was $1,000, and for $1,000 you got 100 debit cards, and I would work with you on the driver's license. Now I wouldn't give you 100 IDs, but I would work with you, and it was $1,000 minimum order. And I feel like at the very pinnacle, I was doing like 100 orders a month. So that's 100K a month.
And were you taking?
No, go ahead.
I said, were you taking Bitcoin as payment?
Yeah, Bitcoin really wasn't that big of a deal back then. And here's something else that's going to make you sick. I think I had somewhere like around $1,100 or $1,200 invested into Bitcoin when the feds came and seized all of my laptops and my hard drives and all of that shit. Yeah, so right now there's I think Bitcoin was like at $50 at this point in time. This was like July 2010, I believe. The price of Bitcoin was like around $50-something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was ridiculous. And that makes me sick every day. But no, I was doing. I had a Western Union account set up, and I was using fulls. And I would get something called like a Western Union debit card, and you got to go through a verification process. You got to send them. Thank you. You got to send them, your copy of your driver's license, social security card, all that shit. But I made all that on Photoshop anyway and sent it. And then you would get like a debit card. Now people could send Western Union straight to your debit card. I wouldn't even have to go and pick them up in person. I would just have the card, and then I would go to the ATM or I would just transfer money to a different account or whatever. And that was how I was like mainly, and then also Bitcoin. And then I don't know if you remember Web Money, WMZ. And then there was something called Liberty Reserve, which got shut down by the feds. It was called LMZ.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. I remember the Web Money though.
Yeah, so between those 4 different payment systems, that's how I was getting all my money.
Yeah. That's how we were paying for a lot of ours. We would do the same thing that you're talking about and just load up somebody's card with the money, and we would see where they were doing it from, because it was our card in our name. And so they were somewhere in Romania or some other spot. I mean, that whole thing, man, it was so crazy, the amount, how far you go to try to get out and not working.
I know, dude. I know, man. I know. Like a regular 9 to 5 to me is death. Like, I'm not even gonna play. Like, I just contemplate suicide. Like, if I have to work 40 hours at a regular job, I'm either gonna kill myself or I'm gonna go back to prison, one of the two, and there's no in between.
So when you got busted, what was the like what was entailed with that? Was it a SWAT team thing, or was it just sort of like a? Because I remember you had said, and an hour doesn't do your story justice at all. I'm gonna tell you that
I
right now.
know, man. I know.
You know, and
No, yeah. So I walked into a UPS store, and two Secret Service agents were there waiting on me. Pretty much, is how they got me. And you want to hear something crazy? Is I didn't even go to jail. They didn't arrest me. You know, they took me in back and they fingerprinted me, and they asked me a bunch of questions, and I had to sign some paperwork saying that I would forfeit anything that they had seized from my residence and all that shit. So they had to come to my home, and they searched and they seized everything pretty much. And they just gave me a date and a card, and they told me to be at this date they'd be at this address on this date because I was going to have to do like a debriefing, and they were and that's basically how it went down. And they just came to my home and they searched everything I had. And here's a kicker. At my home, I had a Springfield subcompact 9mm. I had my Walther P99 9mm. I had my Wasser 10 AK-47, and I had an AR-15, and I had a quarter pound of weed. And they left all of that. They left all of it. They said, "We're not the ATF." It was wild. They didn't take any of it. They didn't call the police on any of it. It wasn't in any of their reports. They just wanted the machines and the cards and the fucking laptops and all that shit. So yeah, that's why in my mind, I wasn't even worried about the credit card shit. I was more fucking concerned about the dope and the guns I got at my fucking house. You know what I mean? But no, they didn't even. They weren't even upset about that. They didn't even care. And like I had my concealed weapons license at this time, so like none of the guns was illegal. But I was in South Carolina, and marijuana in South Carolina is fucking illegal. It's even to this day, it's not. There's not even medical up there. Those fucking hillbillies over there, they're never gonna get on board with the rest of the society. With it being the Bible Belt and all those old conservative Republicans, it just isn't gonna happen. So yeah, I was surprised, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. I get you there, man.
I thought I was done, man. I thought I was cooked. But yeah, no, they just came and they searched and they were like, you're gonna have to come and meet with us and talk a little bit further, and I did. And I went down to the Secret Service headquarters and I gave a whole fucking statement, and they interrogated me for about 3.5 hours. And then that was it, man. And I didn't hear. It took them 3.5 years to indict me after that.
Oh, were you still doing it after that?
Dude, after about a year, I didn't have no choice. I had money put away and hidden and shit, but after about a year, I was running out of money, so I got more equipment and fucking geared up for another run. Fuck them.
Yeah.
What was I supposed to do?
And so how much time did you end up doing once you got indicted and all of that? And then did they, with the level that you were doing, I mean, was there any offers on the table to like kind of consult with them and become and start working with them and giving them information, like not as like turning, but becoming, do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. And no, I was never offered anything like that. And I think somebody, honestly, to be honest with you, I think somebody dropped the ball on my case, because the old man that was working at the UPS store, now, unbeknownst to me, he was the owner, and I didn't know that at the time. He opened one of my packages and found what I was sending out. And he had contacted the Postmaster General. The Postmaster General had contacted the Secret Service, and that's how they caught me. And I didn't know this until me and my lawyer, when I was in the county, me and my lawyer were going over my discovery. And in the report given by the initial investigating Secret Service, they had said, how that they were contacted. And my lawyer was like, what, something isn't right here. So she dipped, and I didn't hear anything from her for about a month. No phone calls, no nothing. She didn't come to see me. And then she shows up one day, and mind you, I told you that the initial agreement by the prosecuting attorney was 150 months. She came back like 2 months later with another offer of 24 months, and this was for aggravated identity theft. And they had dropped the manufacturing of fraudulent transaction devices. They dropped the mail fraud. They dropped the possession of fraudulent transaction devices. They dropped the trafficking of fraudulent transaction devices. They dropped all that shit. And the only thing they could hit me with was the aggravated identity theft, because I did have my picture on somebody else's driver's license. And that's it. That was I ended up going to court, and like I said, I got lucky, man. You know, they had that old man fucked up their whole case.
And then, so how much time did you actually said those 24 months, and then you did what, 85% of that?
Yeah, I got 6 months halfway house. You know, but I ended up getting out, and I ended up going back on violation. So I ended up going back for like another 9 months. You know, because I got out and like things just were not fucking going my way. You know what I mean? So I started doing the credit card shit again. And this time I didn't last very long. It only lasted like a couple months, and some shit went down, and yeah, I got picked up again. But so I ended up going back, and dude, check this. I went back. So I had 3 years of paper, right? I go back on violation. The judge gives me 9 months time served and kills my paper.
Wow, you got lucky there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so when I got back out, that was it. I was just like a free man, and the case was over, and that was it. And this was like 2016. So that's when I just dipped out to California and was like, I'm done. I'm leaving Miami. I can't be here. You know.
Too many. What do they call those? Lost my train of thought. It's too many, not triggers, but
it's people, places, and things, man. It definitely is triggers. You know, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly.
So when you were on paper and you got out, my thing is that like I was lucky. I had a support system and a car and all these things.
I did not. I didn't have any of that when I got out, unfortunately. I had 6 months to make as much money I could as the halfway house to launch my new life with, And I don't know if you went to halfway house, but dude, they take 30 or 40% of everything you make. Before taxes.
Yeah, it's a corrupt system. I mean, those halfway
it's a money grab.
Yeah,
money grab.
Basically extorting you.
But I'm not complaining because I could be fucking, back in prison still and then getting out with nothing. So, you take what you get.
So do you feel like that system is if you don't have a support system or a good plan in place, that it's designed to set you up to fail?
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know if it's designed to set you up for fail, but I mean, failure is definitely a high probability. If you, like you said, if you have no kind of like support system or anything like that, for sure. It's not a good situation to be in, dude, for sure.
All right. So once you get back to California, you end up in Tracy. You said that you were living there and also working for Tesla, making not a whole lot of money and working a whole lot of hours.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the money was good. If I was living anywhere else in the country, but because I was living in the Bay Area, and I wasn't even in the Bay, I was out in the fucking Valley, and I was still paying like $3,200 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm,
so the Tesla money was good, but it wasn't like I didn't feel like I was balling or anything like that. I felt like I was just barely paying my bills, and I mean, I had a nice car. I was driving a nice car and shit, but that doesn't mean shit when all you do is drive it to work every day.
Yeah, I've often said that making $120,000 a year in California is just barely above poverty.
Yeah, it sucks, man. So I was doing 6/12s. I was working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, mandatory. You know what I mean? So.
And so it looks like that, you went through all of that. You ended up moving to Arizona, where you're at now. You picked up, the tattooing and stuff that you're doing now.
I've always been tattooing, man. I've been tattooing probably since 2003, 2002, 2003, something like that. It was never. I never felt like that this is what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, you know. And then after I worked at Tesla and I kind of hurt my back and I was out on disability, and I was like, man, I don't want to go back to a regular 9 to 5 ever again, you know. And this was the only marketable skill that I was left with that isn't going to send me back to prison, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, and honestly, man, I couldn't be happier, dude. You know what I mean? Like I get to wake up every day and I get to make my own decisions. You know, if this isn't a real job, dude, you know what I mean? This is, you know what I mean? Like I get to, if I don't come in today, I don't have to come in. I'll just call them like I'm not coming in. You know what I mean? Like that's not, you can't do that in a regular job. So it's like I still get to do whatever I want. I'm making, you know, really good money. You know, and I'm happy, you know. So yeah.
And then from the looks of it, you know, you're starting to get a lot more traction with your. You also wrote a book, right?
I wrote my memoir when I was in memoir. I wrote that when I was in federal prison. I had help from a gentleman named Matthew Cox.
Yeah, you guys were both at Lompoc, right?
No, we were at Coleman.
Coleman. Okay, Coleman.
Yeah, and yeah, we wrote the memoir, and then I got out, and that got published like 2.5 years ago, and that the book's doing pretty well right now. You know, and I since then started the YouTube channel, which I do full time now. I'm completely obsessed with you know YouTube and just trying to make the best content I can, and like you know having that overall polished you know like YouTube's you know professional studio, and I'm just you know I've immersed myself into that now, and that's just all I do is just tattooing and YouTube, and I do podcasts. You know I'm in a different city every weekend. I go to Florida once a month. I'm sorry, and I film down there. I fly out to Texas and film, New York. I'm out in California every other week filming podcasts and stuff. So yeah, this is all it's all snowballing and taking on its own life now.
So you got any plans for a documentary in the works?
Yeah, actually, I filmed with a like a private production company. And we filmed for like 5 or 6 days straight, and so it's all in the works now. I don't want to, you know, let too much information out, but yeah, I can't. I'm under contract. I can't really talk about it too much, but yeah, there is going to be a like a fully professional documentary on one of the major, you know, Hulu, FX, HBO, something like that. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate everything, and then all of John's, you know, social media, his YouTube channel, and even a link to the book. On Amazon is in the description or be in the show notes, so you guys can go directly to there and click on the link, and it'll take you to all of his places and his spaces. I definitely want to say thank you to you. I appreciate your time and your what do they call that? Your how when you can do it, multitasking skills there.
Oh yeah, no problem, man. Hey, listen, tattooing is just muscle memory to me, so I can tattoo and do anything else. You know, I'm doing it for so long, it's not even an issue.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, I definitely want to say thank you, and I appreciate your time. Got anything you want to close with?
No, I mean, yeah, like you said, yeah, you guys can follow me on Instagram at Slum by Nature, and if you guys want to, you know, hit me up and follow all the content I'm doing and all of the moves I'm making and all of the future stuff coming out, you can find me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is called Boseak Conundrum. Like you said, there will be links to everything, you know, when all this is done, and yeah, just, you know, thank you guys for showing up. Thank you for listening. And if you subscribe to my channel, I appreciate that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm already a subscriber there, and he's definitely. You can find the long version of this story on his YouTube channel, but then you can also find other things that he's done, like on Conkrete. They did a 2-part series on you there, the Conkrete podcast or YouTube channel, right?
Yeah. If you just Google my name, John Boseak, everything comes up right in the Google results. My book, all the podcasts I've done, everything. Yeah, everything's readily available on the internet. So.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm going to thank you. We're going to pull out of here. I'm going to hit the outro, and I'll stay in touch with you, man. Maybe we'll do another sort of deal, because I think I'm going to be heading out to Conkrete as well in the future.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. That would be awesome, man. Let me know. We'll do another clubhouse room or another fucking podcast, or maybe, because I'm you know I got my own shit going on. I'm gonna be doing this pretty soon, so maybe I'll have you on my pod and we'll go dive into your situation.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. Definitely.
Cool.
You're in my network now. I'm in your network, and we'll just stay in touch.
Cool, brother. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Danny. Or not Danny, John. All right. Peace, brother.
Peace, brother.
You've been listening to the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. Sean is a single dad, a union blue-collar guy, and he spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. When he was released from prison in 2006, all he had was the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and some paperwork. Since then, he's turned his life around and shares the struggles and successes on this podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope you were moved. To connect to the show, book a guest spot. For merch, Patreon, PayPal, and social media links, go to linktr.ee/nowheretogobutupnow. On Instagram at nowheretogobutupnow. On Twitter at butupnow. On the YouTube channel at Nowhere to Go But Up Podcast. See you next time.